Hello again. Jules here, still under the weather, still battling my cold, but that's fine. I'm still using the advantage of my voice sounding like this. And I just realized when I was editing the open water video that I didn't use my mic, but maybe now I didn't forget. So today we're gonna talk about Wuthering Heights. This is chapterly yours. But before I go into Wuthering Heights, I want to show you the Paradise Lost illustrated edition that I got for myself. Not quite reading friendly when it comes to taking it on a bus or something, which is why I have this mini edition as well. So currently on book 3 or 4. Book 4, yes. But I just wanted to share this one with you guys because it's just beautiful. And it was on my to buy list for quite some time. And I just want to show you some of the illustrations. They are just beautiful. And they're illustrated by Gustav Doré. And it's just, wow. They are also gloomy and dark. Wonderful. So when I will be doing the review of Paradise Lost, which obviously is coming, I'm gonna show you in a little more detail this one. So, but surprisingly though, it's quite light for a big book like this. It's quite light, and the paper is very nice, very smooth, very demure and mindful. But today we're gonna talk about Wuthering Heights. Yet again, before we go there, I want to show you guys my new plants. I bought myself 2 new plants because the spring is coming. So I got this one. I don't know. It's a fern, a type of fern, something. So I have a new fern. I have a thing with ferns. I don't think they like me very much. And this is my attempt to befriend this fern. It doesn't have a name yet, but maybe you can help me figure it out. I'm open to all suggestions. And I also have this tiny one, and I don't know what it is, but it was just so beautiful and tiny, and I was like, you know what? I need a new plant. So I got it. Also, currently nameless, so if you guys have anything, please just feel free to suggest something in the comments, perhaps. Okay, so as always, I have my notes and I have the book. I want to talk about this edition first. This is Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition, and I got a couple of these in my library, and it's beautiful. You have to admit it's something else. And previously I wasn't sure if all of the editions from this particular bundle are the pages look like this, but they do, which is great. It has no illustrations in it, except the one here in the beginning, and they say it's a faithful reproduction of the first edition, like a reprint, which was published in December 1847. And this actually, Emily Brontë. Let's talk about Emily Brontë and her writing. She was one of the 3 Brontë sisters. She published only 1 book. Everything else was poetry. And she published this one under a pen name. And the pen name was Alice Bell, which was obviously a man's name, but she wanted to avoid the gender bias, which was a struggle back in the day. You can see it in Emily Dickinson. If you're watching the Apple TV show called Dickinson, you can see how she struggled with writing under her own name. And actually, Emily Dickinson wasn't even published fully after. She was published when she died. Like, that's how it ended. But yes, Emily Bronte was one of the three sisters. There's also Charlotte Bronte, which everyone knows. She has a bundle of books. And Anne. Emily, however, was most elusive and enigmatic. That's probably why I decided to read Wuthering Heights. Confession time, I have never read it before, not even in Polish, although I do have a Polish copy as well. But, you know, like I'm always saying, it's not a race, it's not a competition. There's always time to do something for the first time. And reading this brought me immense joy. I was fully invested. I loved the way Emily used her phrasings, and her writing is just exceptional. The novel, I totally understand how it was highly controversial back in her day, because it wasn't a typical romance. It was so dark and so wild, something very unlike in the early 1800s. Not early. This one was published in 1847, but still, to publish such a book was something really, the things like that didn't happen back then, so it was very controversial. Probably received a little better because everyone thought it was published by a man. So, you know what, now that I think about it, we just celebrated International Women's Day, and I think this is a perfect timing for us to talk about this book, and also upcoming movie adaptation of the book, which I have so many reservations about, but that, let's save this for the end. Unlike, and this is my note, so let me just read it out. Unlike other 19th century novels that followed clear moral structures, Emily's writing defied expectation. And it did, because the love that was there wasn't soft and sweet and all sunshine and rainbows. Nobody won in this book. Nobody got what they wanted. It was tragic. It was unhinged. It was not expected. It defied the gravity, essentially. Unfortunately, Emily died at the age of 30, and she never got to see the recognition her book got. And that's just sad. But then again, that's unfortunately how the world works and worked back in the 1800s, but also in the 1900s, in 2000s. Sometimes we just don't appreciate the people, the artists, writers, painters, musicians. We just start appreciating them and loving them when they die, which is sad. That's why I'm trying to support young artists and creators, because you just never know. You can make someone's day, you know? The feelings of Wuthering Heights, if I was to describe them in one word, it would be storm. The very violent, loud storm of emotions and hatred, but also love. Love that's not soft, not tender. It was wild, unprecedented. It was unhinged. I think I spoke a lot when I was talking to my friend about it. I used the word unhinged a lot, because it was unhinged. The themes that were there and that you can really grasp is obviously passion, but also obsession. We get to observe the obsession that both Catherine and Heathcliff have for each other, and yet it goes nowhere. Mm. It's I was so frustrated, because, like I said, nobody won in this book, and that's something that doesn't happen quite often in modern storytelling or book writing. There is usually some kind of resolution or closure, and yet in here the door is slightly open for young Kathy and young Herthan to like break the generational trauma, but it's being left unspoken. The revenge and distraction that's mostly driving Heathcliff, and it's his motivation to do, is, I don't want to say worthy of admiration, but you got to admit the guy was pretty stubborn in his life. Now, he had a very difficult start in life, there's no denying. Um, but it's really hard to relate to this kind of hatred filling out your heart. There is also a theme of isolation and kind of this madness when you're being left alone with your thoughts, whether that be because someone locked you up in a room or you locked yourself in a room. And those moments where, for example, Catherine was trying to prove a point to both Edgar and Heathcliff, that they should be kind of fighting for her, or that she cannot live without the other, or neither of them really. Those were very, you could feel the storm brewing inside her, the madness kind of blooming in her heart, slowly overcoming her entire soul with darkness. And that's not easy to convey in words. And yet, Emily Brontë did it, and it was wonderful. Another thing that added to this very dark vibe is also the motive of hunting, and not like hunting, but like ghost hunted you kind of thing. I kind of loved it because you could say that it didn't really fit in, but it did perfectly. And Heathcliff being exposed to Catherine's ghost and heaven and hell, that's what gave the spice to the story as well. Now, let's talk about the characters for a minute, because I don't think any of them were likable. And I'm gonna start with Nellie because I absolutely hated her. Like, okay, she was a good storyteller, she was a good narrator, I'm gonna give her that. But other than that, she was just a horrible person, really. She was not your typical caretaker or a nanny or a confidant. Not at all. She would spill all your secrets like that. And that's what she did. That's what she essentially did through the entire book. She told everything to Mr. Lockwood, who, again, was also kind of meh of a character, but that was his job. That was, so he did it perfectly. Now, Nellie Dean, I disliked from the first like sentence she uttered in the book. She was the housekeeper in both kind of mansions. Um, she has been involved in both Linton's and Earnshaws from the start. She knew all the tea, and she spilled it intentionally. She couldn't keep a secret for nothing, which, for me, if she would keep some secrets, perhaps the tragedies wouldn't be so big. But I also appreciate that this is how she was supposed to be. That's how she was written. And the very fact that she is maddening me, that she's driving me crazy, only proves that this is how the character was supposed to be structured. And those were the emotions that she was supposed to invoke. So, job well done. She was very practical and very opinionated on everything. Her main task was to take care of literally everything that was around her and everyone that was around her. Was she loyal to her masters? Yes. To the people that were not her master but in her care? Not so much. And that made her an unreliable narrator, which, you know, the story could have gone quite differently, and yet Nellie told us her version of the story. So we might not really know what went down at Wuthering Heights, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Very much disliked character, but in a good spirit disliked. It's not like, I don't like mushrooms kind of dislike. It's, she was meant, for me, she was meant to be disliked. Heathcliff, the outsider, the avenger, the rebel that was brought to Wuthering Heights by the Nestor, a very troubled young man who struggled and had to push through with his elbows all his life. He and Catherine grew really close. They were thick as thieves. Until one day he disappeared. And that was actually kind of heartbreaking, because I understand that in the 1800s, marrying someone who was not of the same social status or who didn't have more money was degrading. And that's how Catherine actually put it to Nellie, which Heathcliff overheard, that marrying him for Catherine would be degrading. And that broke his heart. And then she was kind of twisting it around that it was Heathcliff who broke her heart, which is gaslighting a little bit, because she did ended up marrying someone else who was a complete opposite to Heathcliff. But Heathcliff was driven by revenge, by obsession, and he wanted to prove to everyone that he can get wealthy, he can get stronger, he can have a certain social status. But so what? It got him nothing, because while he was away, Catherine agreed to marry Edgar. And so, yes, Heathcliff got the money, he got the mansion, he got his revenge, but he didn't get the woman. Catherine died like 150 pages in the book, which is like halfway there. So for the next 100 and 200 pages, let's say, we witness this slowly growing sense of failure in Heathcliff, but he's constantly in denial of it. When it comes to Catherine, he decides to redirect his hatred to other people. Heathcliff ends up marrying Isabel Linton, which is Edgar's sister. Obviously, it ended up disaster. He has a son, and the son is nothing like Heathcliff. Well, he's not losing temper. For a moment there, I kind of rooted for him. But then, well, things happened. Catherine Earnshaw was the tormented, torn soul. Absolutely unhinged. One of my favorite heroines in literature world. She was wild, free-spirited, very full of life, but also torn, very torn between two worlds, between Heathcliff and this kind of I don't want to say poverty, but like degrading social status, and again, against that, a desire to progress in society by marrying Edgar. Now, Catherine claimed that she loved Edgar dearly, but that dearly didn't necessarily meant widely, like she loved Heathcliff. She was very passionate, reckless, proud, always held her chin up. The emotional conflict was her doom, really. That was the end of her life. She died shortly after giving birth to Cathy. And I am very grateful for Emily Brontë to distinctive renaming the child, not Catherine, but really Cathy, so we're not confused who we're talking about. She wasn't completely gone, because her presence haunted Heathcliff all the time. And that's also the spiritual element that just added the spice to the novel. Another person that I felt very sorry for was Edgar Linton, because he's the good guy. He's the soft, the steady, loving, romantic partner that was fully in love with his wife, Catherine. And We see those situations very often in real life when there was a loving guy and that there is a conflicted girl that not necessarily knows what she wants. Um, and then there is this other guy who seems rebellious and kind of like a bad boy vibe, and she just breaks the heart of the good guy to be miserable with the other guy. We see it in different shapes and sizes and formats these days. So Edgar was this gentle contrast to both really Catherine and Heathcliff. Um, he was civilized. He wanted a peaceful life with Catherine. He indulged her a lot when Heathcliff came back and she wanted to see him. He gave her a lot of freedom, but then he kept the boundaries set as well. His story is absolutely tragic for me because he's left with a very young daughter. No kind of a law back then didn't allow women to inherit the mansions, the possessions, and all that stuff. So he was left without a successor, male successor. But nevertheless, he wanted Kathy to have a happy life. Well, he lost her to Heathcliff's manipulations. So even more tragic to the story. I think Edgar was one of my favorite characters. I felt very sorry for him and for everything that he was caught in between. I do believe that Catherine loved him in her own way, but she couldn't stop loving Heathcliff as well. And I'm not sure if Edgar understood that, or maybe he did, and that's why he went through with it still. Another disliked character, and I'm so sad to say that it's another woman, not because it was written poorly, but because it was written so well. You were meant to dislike her and not really feel sorry for her. Was Edgar's sister Isabel. She was very naive. She had this mindset that maybe Heathcliff will change for her, or thanks to her, but we all know how that goes in life. People don't change for someone, people change for themselves as they please. She foolishly fell in love with Heathcliff and ended up very miserable, moving to south of the country and giving birth and then raising her son alone. And it was just painful to see. She was driven by love initially, but it became kind of a survival's instinct later on, which is so sad because we all believe that love can change someone, but it never goes like this. And it's just super sad. She was very naive and hopeful, but later this hope turned into hopelessness and being broken and bitter. Her son, Linton, her and Heathcliff's son, really, Linton. I'm deliberately not saying much about him because for me he was a very blunt character, kind of to showcase Harton Earnshaw, the redeemed son. Linton served its purpose and did Harton's justice. So I don't feel like he's worth mentioning on this video, but I do want to talk about Harton. He was Hindley's neglected son, raised in ignorance. Initially, he was nurtured by Nellie, but then she had to move out to another mansion following Catherine. And so then when Heathcliff came back, he took over this upbringing, and it obviously was a disastrous one. He starts off as an educated and mistreated child, but then he seeks redemption and love. And Kathy, the daughter of Catherine and Edgar, unexpectedly is able to give it to him. And we see it by the end of the book that the both of them want to escape this years of generational trauma, of the quarrels between the two families that they have nothing to do with. They were just caught in the crossfire and they want out, which is so it's easy to say, it's easy to write, but it's not easy to do. And I will always and forever admire people who break those toxic cycles. I did it too with a couple of things in my life, and I know how difficult it was for me. From being this raw and undefined person, becomes someone who wants to learn and who wants to learn how to love and be loved as well. And we have in his corner, we have, or actually he's in Catherine's corner. Let's say it this way. In being in young Catherine Linton's corner, she is this new beginning. She is this new breath of fresh air in Wuthering Heights estate. She's spirited like her mother, Catherine. So she's wild. She can be unhinged sometimes, but she's more kind-hearted. She doesn't have those tantrums. She chooses love over pride, and that's just my jam. There is no measure in love, how successful or rich or wealthy are you. As long as you're a good person and you love someone, that's all it takes, you know? So that's why I felt the most related to young Kathy, because she decided to listen to her heart over her, let's say, not her, but over the utter noise of people who could say that Harton is not good enough for her, you know, because she was born into a wealthy family, into a family with a name. And Harton is a troubled boy. She was very strong-willed and independent. She was able to talk back to Heathcliff, which I think he also admired in her. He admired this in her, and he let her do it. He appreciated that even, because she kept him in check. She and Harton symbolized this breaking free and starting new, which is a perfect closure for the book. Overall, each of the characters in Wuthering Heights, sorry, I'm not feeling quite well, so apologies for all the mistakes that I make. They are all deeply flawed, but that's what makes them so unforgettable. This is a brilliant storytelling and creation of characters. You start looking for these people in your life as well. Like maybe you have a Heathcliff in your life, or maybe you're a little bit like young Catherine with a pinch of Edgar Linton, and that's beautiful. Wuthering Heights, heists, oh my god, heists, no, never mind. Wuthering Heights is a book that endures till today, and it endures because it breaks every rule of a typical romance. Sometimes you just need to get out of the box that you've been locked in and create something new, and that's what Emily Brontë did. She wrote a book with no happy ending, no clear protagonist or antagonist in the book. They all have elements of the two in each other. Her writing was raw, poetic, and very intense, filled with violence and passion and gothic beauty. That's something so rare. We don't see it today. The themes varying from love to revenge to class struggles, such a relevant book. Maybe not romance aside, but the class struggle, the war between families, the war between what you want and what you're supposed to do. Very, very relatable. And lastly, what I've been saying throughout this video, no one really wins in this book. And again, that's what makes it unforgettable, because usually throughout the course of a story, you root for someone, right? So perhaps you were rooting for Heathcliff or Catherine, but neither of them won. Catherine died without really expressing her love or experiencing her love with Heathcliff, without joy of raising her daughter and seeing her growing up. Then Heathcliff, yes, he got the money, yes, he got the mansion, but he didn't get the woman he loved. He ended up being bitter and miserable. And then Edgar lost the love of his life. So the only people that can get this happy ending, but we don't know that because the story ends, is young Kathy and Hurton. So an open ending. Overall, a fantastic novel. I'm very happy that I read it. I'm very happy I spent the entire weekend reading it, really, with no distractions, no phone calls, no nothing. And I must say, it was pure joy for me to read it because I got very invested, and I'm very happy I got this in English regardless, because Polish translations, as good as they are, Emily Brontë wrote it in English, and I wanted to experience this poetic language and poetic phrases she used in original text. Now, I did promise a couple of thoughts about the upcoming adaptation. I'm very skeptical. Oh, I feel like, apart from not having original ideas anymore, people are touching things that should not be touched. We got a couple of good Wuthering Heights adaptations. I feel no need to revisit the subject. Um, Contrary, The Count of Monte Cristo, I feel like I could watch and watch and watch the adaptations. And the newest TV show from last year with Sam Claflin was great. I loved it. It told the story very well. However, the more we hear about new Wuthering Heights, the more worried I am. So we have Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie as Heathcliff and Catherine. For a moment there, I thought that Jacob could be a good Heathcliff, but then again, not in my head. Perhaps when the movie comes out, I will change my mind. I like changing my mind when it comes to movies or books or music, because I usually am right, and sometimes I would rather be wrong when it comes to that. I also see a lot of people saying that Margot Robbie is a bit too old to play Catherine, while the age, for me, she's a fantastic actress. So for me, I don't even consider her being too old for this role. I just don't feel like she is unhinged enough to play the role of Catherine. Unless they change it up a bit, I just don't see that. So that's my main issue with Margot Robbie. And I will definitely see it, and maybe I will let you guys know. I have a feeling that I will end up frustrated watching this new version, but let's see. Maybe I have to watch it so you won't. So, taking one for the team. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll speak to you soon, probably with Paradise Lost. Or if I find the time to scribble down some notes about other books that I've read this and last year, perhaps that will come first. And if not, then I don't know. I'm going to probably come up with something. Anyway, thank you guys. Stay safe and healthy. Get some sun, but dress appropriately, because that was my mistake. That's on me. But okay, I'm just going to shut up now and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.